What's up, everyone? Welcome to Around the ACL. It's Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder, and it's just the two of us holding it down. Why? Why, you ask? Because Jake and Wally had to go to a baseball game last night because they're just lazy, can't be working. And so now we got to hold it down so they can fly home today. So there you go.
Tisk, tisk. Jake and Wally. Tisk, tisk.
It's kind of a fun thing they're doing. So as we are doing all these travels, they are trying to hit as many baseball stadiums as possible. So I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, so they had to hit up the one in Colorado, but that's
They get to
okay.
see maybe one of the historically bad teams to ever play baseball. The Rockies are like on pace for one of the worst records in the history of baseball.
Yeah, that's not a stat you want at all.
So they said there were more Phillies fans there than there were Rockies fans.
Oh yeah,
So
they did say that. Okay, but I didn't know about the whole Rockies situation, but
yeah,
that makes
Rockies
sense now.
bad. Rockies bad.
Well, there you go. They're not going to see maybe good game. They just want to kind of have like a bucket list situation, like how
Yeah,
many
that's
baseball
exactly
stadiums
what it
can
is.
we go to? They also went to the mountains. We did too. It's funny. We drove all the way to Estes Park, and then like maybe 20 minutes in, we looked at our the weather, and we're like, it looks like a storm's coming. And sure enough, because we went to go on a hike, and we're like, I don't know if that's going to happen. So that did not happen. So we get to just about where we were about to go for the hike, and then we see a mountain coaster. Trey knows my affinity for roller coasters, and I was like, I don't think so, guys. And they're like, no, it's fine. You can control. Have you been on one of these before?
No.
Okay, so you can control your speed, and it is like a track, like in a mountain, essentially. And I'm looking at it, and I just see like this huge, but what would be a drop, but that's the way up. So I was like, okay, so I'm like still freaking out because I don't like roller coasters. And the lady, I go, I don't like roller coasters. Am I going to like this? She's like, you'll be fine. There's no loops, there's no drops. You can control your speed. It goes up to 60 miles per hour, but you don't have to do that. And I was like freaking out. And they're like, no, you're going. So it's raining and it's cold, by the way. And I am wearing a ACL crew neck, not at all prepared for no hood, no jacket. Wally's wearing shorts and a jersey. I mean, we were not prepared for this at all. So we get on it and we're going up this thing. And it just keeps going, Trey. It's going up and up and up and up. I'm like, what in the actual F is happening right now? And then as soon as so it's like got like a lever that you like push to go full speed or you go all the way back to brake. And they told me, don't ever hit the brakes. Like you don't hit. So I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to find this in between. But as soon as you get up, and then I'm just like, I thought I was going like halfway, but I think I went full throttle because I went like vroom, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So like I pulled it way back, and they said that I came in at the end like so slow. Like I was like, doo, 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 doo. But yeah, so my first mountain coaster experience has been checked. We did not go for a hike,
Wild.
but we hung out in that little cute little town, Estes Park, and had some lunch. And yeah, that was that. Did you guys get to explore it all?
Just a little bit of downtown Fort Collins. So Fort
Okay.
Collins is now we've been there, twice because we went last year when we were in the Windsor area as well, and so just checking out that it's like a college town vibe. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually really like it. So we went there a couple nights for dinner, and each time it was really good. But love the atmosphere. Saturday night in particular was popping, like just crazy amounts of people down there. Sunday was a little bit quieter, but it was yeah, it was really good. Like a really cool area. I've grown to like Fort Collins a lot, so a place I would definitely go back to.
Yeah, I was just surprised. The reason why we went where we went is because I was telling Chase. I guess Chase used to live in Colorado growing up. And so I was like, I can't believe that there's no mountains. Like when I picture Colorado, it literally looks like Orville where I live. Where we were looks just like Orville. It's just a bunch of like just open land, kind of farmland. Uh, and that is no mountains in sight. Like that is what I'm used to. That's where I live. And I was like, what the heck, dude? Like I came to Colorado. I want to see some
Yeah.
mountains.
It's just
So
like
he's
this
like,
valley because it's all like flat and there's mountains. Like you have to go all the way to like Boulder to get out there towards the
well, I was
mountain.
in Boulder, and it's
Yeah.
still like my friend does live up on a mountain, but it's not like I'm thinking Salt Lake City. I've been to Durango, Colorado, where it's just 360 views of mountains all around you. That's kind of what I was thinking. And he's like, no, we're in the foothills. And he was like, even Boulder? Yeah, Boulder is still the foothills. So anyways, he took me to the mountains. So I get to see all the beautiful mountains, snow covered, all the things. And yeah, we went a little bit early. My childhood friend lives there, and we took Rome and Nick, and we got to do this wild animal sanctuary where like they rescue like lions and tigers and bears and all these things, and that was really cool. And Rome loved that. And then otherwise we just kind of hung out. So it was a nice little trip to Colorado. Definitely happy to be home. But yeah, what about you? What do you think about the whole event? Just kind of big picture thoughts.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great event. And I thought like we'll get into some of the results, but maybe our highest volume of like big shots in a weekend, like and maybe not even big shots, but like walk-offs. Like we had a couple like airmail drags for the win, pushes for the win, like big rounds for the win. And it was, anytime you get that type of calling, it's like it's awesome. So I got to jump in a little bit on streaming, a little bit here and there, tap in on some backup pinch hitter type roles. So I was the pinch hitter for the weekend. So it was really cool. And the season's starting to shape and give us some of that. And then Fort Worth will be a similar vibe. And then back to the big TV broadcasts in Utica and in Richmond. So we're kind of the middle part of the season now, where people are starting to the intensity ratchets up, and as a result, the big shots are coming through.
Now, will Fort Worth have a similar vibe? Because Fort Worth is obviously Texas, and this weekend it was a lot of Texas.
There's a lot of Texas.
Is that going to happen again? Funny story. So I don't know, Trey, if you know this, but we as commentators, the team, we do our picks every week, and Chase has assigned point values. And so we're kind of doing this competition within our team about our picks. And every single time, no matter what, Chase, being from Texas, picks Texas players, even if it doesn't make sense. Like he has in the past picked a Ty Thompson in brackets with a Mark Richards, a Tony Smith, like where you're like, what are you doing? He'll just find the best Texas player in a bracket and pick them. Well, not this weekend. he abandoned that strategy. He did not pick all Texas. And this was the weekend that he should have, because yes, as you know, Ty Thompson wins singles. Shockingly, no offense to Ty Thompson, he just wasn't on anyone's top of their list or on their radar, even though he's a phenomenal cornhole player. And then, of course, doubles went to Sammy Soto and Gavin Cano. So a Texas sweep there for singles and doubles. And a sad day, I guess, a little bit for Chase, although I'm sure he's happy that his Texans players showed up. But in case anybody's wondering, I'm sitting number one right now. I just think probably people needed to know that. They're probably sitting on the edge of the seat wondering. So I'll throw that in there. But let's get it started with doubles. We're going to start with Sammy Soto, Gavin Cano, finally get that win. Gavin Cano, the second place guy, finally breaks through. And I believe it was you that was saying it. He actually had the last shot. Like he had the last round for the win.
Yeah, and I think that was big for him, right? Him and Sammy get over the hump. And I thought it was so fitting, and we'll talk about why it was so fitting when we talk about singles, because Gavin Cano was close on singles as well. But we'll start with the high, which is, yeah, they get across. And I walked out there to give them the trophies. And when I gave out the trophies, it was, the one comment that Gavin made was, I finally got one. So you could tell that meant a lot to him, and it was a exciting moment for him. It was more probably a relief for him, and really they played well all day long, right? Because they played double Saturday morning, but then the final broadcasts were Saturday night, so he played all the way through that. They had to take down some of the best teams, in the world in order to do it. I thought they were consistent. I thought they were consistent. I thought Sammy Soto's roll bag was probably one of the best I've ever seen it. I know a lot of people will say he's what are you talking about? He's like the best in the world. True. But when you get to this point, there's sometimes when that roll bag hasn't played out for him. I thought he was consistent with that roll bag all the way through. And that's really what led them to get the big victory and get across the finish line. We go back to Gavin Cano, right? The second place guy. I thought it was fitting, and it's going to help him to know that he had to throw the last bag, right? If he misses the last bag, they don't necessarily lose the game, but the game keeps going. And who knows we've seen what happens when you give Jamie Graham second life, right? Jacob Trzynski didn't play well in the finals. Everybody knows this. Less than a 7.0 PPR. That's never going to happen again. So if you miss that bag, right? I'm not saying it's over immediately, but it could only get better for Graham and Trzynski. And so Kano had the opportunity to put the game on ice right there, and he did it. And I think that's really important for him and his growth and being able to build and continue to get better. Other teams in doubles that were interesting to me. Obviously, Graham and Trzynski, like if you tell me to rank best teams in the world right now, I'm still going to put them at number one, even though they didn't win, right? They are now 3 straight signature events making the finals. Second place, losing to Richards and Smith at the first one. Then they won the second one. And the third one, they lose to Sammy Soto and Gavin Cano. So if you look at what they've lost, they've only lost to, going into the event, the number 2 and the number 3 teams in the world. And they did so at in the finals, right? What I do find interesting is going into this event, right? And standings are going to be rerun after this and it will change, but you had the number 1, number 2, and number 3 teams in the world as Trzynski, Graham, Richard, Smith, Soto, Cano. Each 3 of those have a signature victory. So when we talk about doubles right now, it is completely chalk across the board. We saw all 4 number 1 seeds win their brackets, make it to the Final Four. So doubles, at least for now, is having a lot less parity than what we're seeing on the single side. And that's even taking into account, if you look in Arizona, we had the Tyler Cobb, Caleb Medenka, and you had the Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson duo. So you had the Final Four. I guess if the trend continues, Justin Burton Jr. and Logan Chamberlain are destined to win the next event because that'll put them in the top 4. Another note on a team that I saw, Mark Richards and Tony Smith in particular, really almost unbeatable all day until they got to the broadcast court. Now, what's interesting is they got to the broadcast court, they did have to change bags, but they were the higher seed and they still had to change bags because they couldn't come with, broadcast approved bags. It's like, at this point, that's just a mistake that they got to mentally get through. I mean, they just got to figure that out. There's no reason that Tony Smith and Mark Richards, being the higher seed, should show up to a broadcast court and not be 100% comfortable with the bags that they are throwing. There's no excuse for it. But in the end, I'm really impressed. Sammy Soto, Gavin Cano stole the show. They deserve to be the story, but there's a lot of great teams right near the top that are fighting for that number 1 spot.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. When it comes to doubles, it's pretty much chalk, right? We saw a lot more in singles where we get some variety, but just to go through kind of who I was looking at, my picks. So I picked Graham Trzynski, obviously. I picked Smith Richards, obviously. I don't know how you could not pick those guys.
Right.
If you're picking who you think will actually win, I don't know if there's anybody you could put in the bracket where I'm not going to pick them unless they were somehow in the same bracket, which I don't see happening because I think they're always going to be, at the top of their own bracket. Bracket C. So bracket C was Soto Cano's bracket. Number 2 seed was AJ Sims, Braden Wilson. I hate to say it, I don't have a lot of confidence to pick them to win the whole thing. Right. Jeremiah Ellis, Devin Harbaugh are like right there, but we know sometimes Harbaugh can struggle. There's question about Jeremiah Ellis. I don't have questions about him. I fully trust that he can get the job done. And then number 4, Frank Verona, Riker Wells. I've got to see something to make me think, yes, they can win the whole bracket. So I went with Adam Hisner, Trey Birchfield. What's going on with those guys? They're due, right?
Yeah, it's just weird but if we remember, right, they went through something somewhat similar last year. Now, I will say the main difference was the open part of the season prior to when we got to the Nationals signatures this year, right? They had that streak where they won 3 opens, right? And we're talking about them being this unbeatable team. But then when it came signature season and national season, they disappeared. We did not see them again play at the highest level until we got to the World Championships. And then once we got to the World Championships, we all know the story that happened there. So I think this is kind of the story of Trey Birchfield and Adam Hisner. It's like they're not going to be consistently near the top, but they will be at the top a couple times. So it's a lot of this crazy up and down that we're going to see from Birchfield Hisner, which is very different than almost what we may see from a Richards and Smith or even a Graham and Trzynski. Like those guys are always going to be near the top. And if they don't win again for the rest of the season, it could be one of those things where Trey Birchfield and Adam Hisner will win 2 more events before either one of those teams wins one. But I'm more confident in the average finish being higher for Smith, Trzynski, Graham, Smith, and Richards, Graham, Trzynski than I would be a consistent level of finish for Hisner and Birchfield. It's like, I just know Hisner and Birchfield will come around. It's just a question of when.
Well, so I looked at their path because I'm like, what happened? And they're on my court, and Hisner was not performing great. I'm actually was kind of surprised that his PPR was as high as it was because there's so many misses to the left. But when I looked back at their path, so after they lost and they went to the elimination side, the first game they threw a 10.5 and a 9. Like, okay, that's enough to get it done, I guess, on the elimination side. But then the next game, 11.14, 10.75. Like, what? Where was that before? That would have been fine, right? And then the next game, the one that ultimately eliminates them is versus Jay Rubin, Ryan Trader. Adam Hisner throws a 9.94, Trey Birchfield a 9.29, Jay Rubin throws a 10.3, Ryan Trader a 9.06. So had Jay Rubin not been so on point, they potentially could have pulled through, and then they would have been against PJ Knott and Josh Neville, which is they threw in the low 9s or mid 9s. So I think they could have got it done. That would have brought them to Jeremiah Ellis and Devin Harbaugh, and that's when I think they would have had a really good matchup. I think that's would have made more sense to me as a path and why I chose that. But the other one I chose in bracket D was Derek Holland and Alex Rawls. And Alex Rawls, I don't know if you took a look at his performance, but it's just not, I made that hot, or was it a buy and sell a couple weeks ago, that we're not afraid of Alex Rawls anymore. I got to tell you, Trey, looking at his stats, I don't know.
Jake was a little bit dramatic with his take. He's starting to look somewhat smart now on the Alex Rawls front. I was like, okay, maybe he is right. Like, you just kind of expect him to figure it out at some point, but you're kind of running out of time to figure it out. There's only 3 more events.
Figure it out to me is low 9s. Okay. His first game, he threw a 7.43. I think that's a little bit beyond figure it out.
I did not know that. I didn't look at his first game. That's atrocious. Who did he lose to then in his first game?
So that first game, I just scrolled down to elimination side, was Ryan Tucker and Gabe Dolan. They lost 22-9. Derek Holland threw a 9.5. Alex Rawls threw a 7.43. They dropped down. They're on the left side here. I just had them. And when I saw that, I mean, obviously I didn't get to see them play because they were on the elimination side so quickly, but I was like, what is going on? Alex Rawls. I mean, when's the last time Alex Rawls threw in a 7?
That's bad.
Oh, then they went 0-2. The next game, they play Emily Downer and Navarro Dip. They lose 21-20. Derek Holland threw a 10.38. Alex Rawls 8.75. They're out.
That is bad.
What's going on?
I don't know. That's so out of character too. I don't know.
Completely out of character. Alex, if you're listening, I know you're better than this. What the heck's going on, dude?
Maybe I'm not scared of him either. Maybe Jake was right. Don't let Jake hear that. Nobody send this clip to Jake Brandon.
All right, moving on to singles. Ty Thompson obviously is our big winner there. What an amazing night for him. A lot of people, okay, I won't say a lot of people because I didn't talk to a lot of people. Some people said, yeah, maybe he made it. Like he was just hot on Friday, but he's not going to be like that on Saturday night, a whole day later. Like that was just a fluke that he could run through all those people and be so dominant. But Trey, tell us what happened.
Incredible, right? So he makes it all the way to the finals. And then you're just like, all right, going against Jamie Graham. Nice run, Ty. Good job. You did great. Second place ain't nothing to hang your cowboy hat on, right? So then he comes out and he throws 63 out of the 64 first bags that he throws are in the hole. 64 bags, he puts 363 of them in the hole. Start the game. Just bang, snap of a finger. I mean, I equated to the way Jamie lost to Ty the way that Jacob Trzynski lost to Jamie in the game before it. Because Jamie playing Trzynski was throwing incredibly well, and Jamie was just that much better. I mean, Jamie also had, I think, close to a 40-bag streak. It might have been a 40-bag streak or a 44-bag streak against Jacob Trzynski, and there's nothing that Trzynski could do about it. Trzynski was throwing just fine, and sometimes it's just how it works. And I look at what Thompson was able to do. He goes back-to-back and beats Sammy Soto and beats and then beats Jamie Graham. However, if you really weren't watching the streams all day, a lot of people forget one very specific thing. There was a point in the bracket final where Ty Thompson was down 19-3. And then threw his last bag, did the math, and went, I lost, and went over to fist pump Gavin Cano because he's like, good game. And Gavin's like, no, you got one. And Ty looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, I got one. From that point forward, all Ty Thompson did was score 18 straight points against Gavin Cano, then beat Gavin Cano in game 2, then beat Sammy Soto in the semifinals, and then beat the number 1 player in the world in Jamie Graham in the finals. 20-3. He was 1 point away. If Gavin Cano scores a single point, we may be talking about Gavin Cano sweeping the entire weekend, depending on how he would perform, or we could be talking about Jamie Graham winning back-to-back pro singles titles. It all came down to that single game performance. And how many times do you see it, Meesh, where down that big, the guys start throwing airmails, right? It's just like, it's over, the game's over. I mean, literally, I saw a reach out. You go back and watch the video. He goes out and reaches that fist pump out thinking the game is over. And Gavin just, you could tell Gavin's like, I don't want to talk about it. You didn't just win. I mean, I didn't just win. Like, let's stay focused. And Ty was able to just chip away and come all the way back. So the story deserves to be about Ty Thompson. It's now 2 out of the 3 events in which we had kind of a sleeper come all the way through and win the entire thing. But 3 straight events, okay, where you have had someone make the Final Four it was just their weekend, and you could argue on average they're not going to be there every time. So as I look towards it, I'm seeing 3 as a pattern, right? 3 is a trend. So we now have had 3 straight events in which doubles almost completely chalk, singles about half chalk, and then the other half has been a sleeper, at least one making it all the way to that Final Four. So if you're looking to be a predictor of the future as we go to Fort Worth, right, that's the recipe, apparently. It's like you're going to have a Jamie Graham, you're going to have a Tony Smith, but then you're going to have a Ty Thompson, a Colby Shear, or a Gabriel Clausen that comes out of nowhere and makes it all the way to the end. But the adversity that Thompson had to be able to fight through that and end up with a great finish speaks to just how strong mentally this cowboy is.
It also speaks to how difficult math is.
Yeah, that is true too.
I mean, how many times? Why does cornhole make math so hard?
I know,
I don't get it.
I mean, yeah, it's just...
I did not pick Ty Thompson as one of my bracket winners. I picked Jamie Graham. I picked Mark Richards. I picked Zach Aiken, and I picked Sammy Soto. I did not know Zach Aiken was having wrist issues. I did talk to him. I mean, it's actually raised. Like, you can see how inflamed his it's like his wrist / lower forearm. So definitely he's going to take a little rest, ice it, and should be back. I asked him if it was kind of, I have a background in personal training and yoga and stuff. I was asking him some questions to figure out if it's more muscular or just straight inflammation. And, it does seem like an inflammation issue, which means, rest and ice will be good to go on that one. Sammy Soto had the opportunity to sweep. I remember Sammy Soto being on our court back in Mesa, I want to say it was, when he either threw a perfect game or just under a perfect game. It was absolutely incredible. So I have all the faith in the world that Sammy Soto can get it done. I feel confident picking him as a bracket winner, and obviously he was able to do that. Mark Richards, I didn't look at his path. I don't know if you took a look at it at all, but I was surprised not to see him there. Okay, he made it all the way to Jacob Trzynski. Lost, let's see, what did Jacob threw an 11? He threw a 10.44, so no concern there. That's just Jacob was hot this weekend, and has been this season. So
Yeah, I got a chance to. I actually interviewed. We did a little feature that we haven't aired yet. We interviewed Mark on Sunday, kind of after the entire weekend was over, and one of the quotes he had was like, "I felt like I deserved to win this weekend. I put in the work. I played really well, and." So he was completely happy with how he approached the weekend, how he played in the weekend. Really, the only thing he wasn't happy with was the result, which
sure.
tells me he's pretty darn close to getting through and breaking through that and winning that. So it might just be one of those things where it's going to take, not getting a Trzynski or a Smith or somebody else in his bracket that's just playing it, or a Graham. Because if I remember correctly, weren't they all – wasn't it Graham, Smith, and Richards all in the same bracket in Mesa? And then here it was obviously him and Trzynski was
And
arguably
Smith.
one of the hottest players. Yeah, and Smith. So
Yeah.
again, Richards is just, it almost just feels like you got to break through the streak of bad luck and end up in a bracket where, you have some momentum to get to the finals, because we know how Mark Richards is going to play unless he's playing in doubles with Tony Smith where they have to throw bags because they're dummies and don't have other bags, right? When Mark shows up into that court in singles, he's going to be really, really hard to beat. He's just so methodical, and he wears people down. So,
Oh yeah, I have all the utmost confidence to continue to choose him as a bracket winner when I see him in there. There's not many people that I would choose over him. However, when I was choosing the winner of bracket B, I did toggle in my mind between him and Jacob. It's funny, I didn't necessarily think Tony Smith, for whatever gut reason, not because he can't, but I was going Trzynski or Richards. Trzynski or Richards. Those were the two I was toggling between. Ultimately, I chose Richards, but all the faith in Trzynski as well. Moving into women's seniors and juniors, singles went to Sarah Cassidy, and doubles, obviously Lori Jewell, Miranda Coy. You guys got to see that in that kind of electric ending, or at least I heard it on the other side of the LED wall as I was breaking down court two. Senior singles went to Ron Kugel, senior doubles Steve Schrader and Jerry Lockwood, and junior singles Tony Forbes, doubles Bryce Forbes and Levi Haddock. More Texas. Although you got to put, Bryce in there for Louisiana, but Levi right up in there. Thoughts on those other matches, Trey?
Yeah. Well, first, got to give a shout out to Steve Schrader, ACL employee, drives the truck around the country, and he gets his first big win. I think everybody backstage was a Steve Schrader fan. So just glad to see that Steve got his flowers and got his opportunity to showcase his skills. And I think that was a special moment for not only him, for the staff too, that sees how hard he works and seeing him be able to get that big win. So that was really cool. On the women's side, yeah, that big shot, the walk-off push there by Lori Jewell. I think we jokingly, or not jokingly, but I think I put it in the buy or sell last week or the week before. That was Cheyenne Bubenheim will go 2 straight events without winning. And I was like, I'm kind of just putting this here for clickbait. But guess what happened? Cheyenne Bubenheim has now gone 2 straight signature events without winning women's singles or winning women's doubles. And maybe that's a little bit concerning to me. However, I will say that the way that Cheyenne played in that women's doubles final, I thought she played well enough to win. Gina just had a weird second half of the game, very un-Ramirez-esque, just not something you typically see. But credit has to go where credit is due, right? Lori Jewell and Miranda Coy. As I was saying, when it comes down to it, and what Lori and Miranda did, I mean, they earned it. They played at a really high level, and Lori in particular was it shocked me. And he goes down to that final shot, right? Now, I heard Jake say it. You hear him say it on air, and this is just something that I remember from years ago, and apparently hasn't gotten any better. He goes, she's staying on the stick side, right? So when we talk about this, I think that what makes it so impressive is that a level 2 bag for the win in a V formation. The only way you're pushing that is on the slick side. And you're talking about somebody that historically does not have a very powerful push. But Lori Dool, staying on the stick side, hits it absolutely perfectly, slides it up in to win the game. And for me, what makes it so funny is that you literally hear her get off the stage and she goes, I would miss that shot 9 out of 10 times. And that was the one time that I hit it, right? I literally heard that from her and Miranda coming off it. But there's something about playing in the moment. And I thought they were great complementary players because Miranda was really good in the first half of the game. Lori came in clutch in the end when it mattered. And Miranda had like one bad round towards the end, but they picked each other up literally as well at the end, right? There was literally a lift off of Lori Dool on the court. So I thought that was really, really cool and special to watch. And really, I'm just impressed by especially Lori. Lori's got a very basic game. She's going to slide, slide, slide. I would argue that Lori might even just be a 2-bag player, a 2-shot player. It's a slide or it's an airmail, and that's it. She doesn't step out very often. She doesn't use the slick side ever because she doesn't like it. And that's why in that situation, she didn't flip the bag over, right? And so she doesn't like that. So she's just very limited. But still, time and time again, she finds a way to be towards the ends of the tournaments, especially with Miranda, because Miranda has a lot more of those different shot selections. So I thought that was really interesting and really, a good win by them. And then on the women's singles side, Sarah Cassidy, welcome back. Really, when Caitlin Allshouse made the final again, I was like, wow, is she really going to win back-to-back events? And then Sarah Cassidy just blanked her. It's like one of those things where I think Caitlin, sometimes that focus, you miss one shot and it's over type of thing. And I think that's what happened early in that game against Cassidy. But all credit again to Sarah. She's kind of back. We were waiting for her to get that signature victory and see if, she had been very close in doubles and actually won one in doubles, but was waiting for her to be back in singles. And of course, she's back and looked great this weekend.
It's funny about giving up big rounds like that because a lot of people, it defeats them. But if it's me and if I was coaching someone on that, it's like, you're pretty good, right? Like you're here, you made it to the end, and you did that, which means it's very possible them also very good could also do that. But we close out the possibility, like, oh, that's it. Like, no, assuming it's not round limited, obviously. But it's just funny.
No, it was. And then, I guess one quick note on juniors. Tony Forbes sneakily just beating up everybody in juniors right now.
Not for long.
If you look at the list
here in a moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look at the list here of people he keeps continuing to beat on the junior side of things, he continues to rack up a really good resume. I was even looking at CPIs of the different pro players, and Tony Forbes is climbing that list very, very quickly. So Tony is quickly becoming one of the best players under the age of 18 across the country.
In doubles, he was playing with Emax since Adrian Brunson didn't make this event. And Emax on our court threw a perfect game. So Tony goes, I'm just going to keep throwing 9.5s. I mean, he's got it over there. But obviously, he could do better than that, as we know. So congrats to all of those guys and ladies. All right, I'm moving into best of 3. Trey, I'm going to give you some matchups in 3 games. Who's winning? First one is Sarah Cassidy versus Samantha Finley. Who are you giving it to?
Oh, okay. So if I get the same player without the names, I'm going to take Sam Finley. But Sam Finley has this thing with Sarah, or maybe Sarah Cassidy is extra motivated. Every time I look when Sam Finley plays Sarah Cassidy, Sarah always beats her. And I don't know what it is. Sam will beat Cheyenne. She'll beat Rosie. She'll beat anybody else. But it's just like one of those mental blocks against a certain player. And Sam would completely agree with me here. I would go Sarah Cassidy, but that doesn't diminish how well I think Sam Finley is playing right now.
Richard Smith versus Trzynski and Graham. 3 games. Who are you giving it to?
This is a coin flip type of opportunity here, right? I would, maybe it depends on where exactly they're playing. Are they playing on a broadcast court? Are they playing out, on the live stream? Does it have a lot of money tied to it? I think it's a toss up, right? If I'm going right now, based on what I saw this weekend, I'm going to lean Graham Trzynski at this very moment. Kind of hinging on Tony Smith and Jacob Trzynski on each of their ends. I know both Richards and Graham are going to be pretty consistent. We see a little bit of up and down from Smith, and we see a little bit of up and down from Trzynski. So really just depends on is Trzynski peaking while Smith is valleying type of thing. And so right now I'll give a slight edge to Graham and Trzynski.
Damon Dennis versus Steve Schrader.
Steve has made it to a lot of the Final Fours when it comes to seniors, but I still think seniors goes through Damon Dennis. He did not win this weekend. Shout out to Ron Kugel. He gets a big win there, and I thought it was a little bit of a surprise to me. Kugel's been around the game for a very long time. You could argue just as long, if not longer, than Dennis. That's how long Kugel. What's funny is I was putting in results, and Kugel has a lower player ID than Damon Dennis does. So literally, Kugel has been around in the ACL at least longer. So that's interesting, but it still feels like everything runs through Damon Dennis, and because of that, I got to stick with him.
Tony Forbes versus Sammy Soto.
You know what? That sounds like a junior matchup to me. So right now, I'm saying Tony Forbes, right? I think, you put him in the main field. I don't know. Sometimes there's just something about being dominant in specific types of tournaments. And I think right now, Tony Forbes is the epitome of playing as well as you can at the junior level. He's really riding highs, and he's having really strong finishes. I would say if you translate that into a pro singles match, Sammy has shown more, and it shouldn't matter, right? I mean, however you label it, but to an extent, I think it kind of does. It's a different mentality for Forbes, so I'll stick with Forbes.
Jimmy Humans versus Adam Hisner.
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. Again, this feels like one of those things where Jimmy Humans is pretty consistently here, but Hisner would finish better and worse than Humans and kind of just circle around those finishes. I'll bet on Hisner figuring it out in the second half of this season, and may not be the number one player in the world, but will at least get closer to where he wants to be. And so because of that, I'll probably take him outperforming Jimmy Humans in 2 out of 3.
Right. That wraps up best of 3. And now we're going to get into our predictions. So we'll talk about MVP, Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and Breakout Player of the Year. And just because there is a little bit of confusion, Trey, just once again explain the difference to everyone, the difference between comeback and breakout.
Yeah, so a comeback player of the year is someone that was historically great or good in the league and at some point went through some period of adversity or stepped away from the game or just wasn't playing well. And then all of a sudden is back to the ways that they were and the level that they were in past abilities. Rookie of the year always has to go to a rookie. It's the best rookie. Breakout player of the year cannot go to a rookie, right? So a breakout player has to go to somebody who is in their second or more year as an ACL pro and is really showcasing their best talent this year more so than they ever have in the past. So it has to be a returning pro that wins that breakout player.
All right. With that said, let's get it started actually with Breakout Player of the Year, as you just explained. Who did you choose for that one?
Yeah, this is tough, right? And I think it depends on if it's right now or who we're predicting in the future. I think it's a real big toss-up right now as I was looking through a number of different things. But if there was a leader, I'm probably leaning Colby Shearer right now when he makes the Final Four of both singles and doubles. I look at him in the rankings, and he's having a pretty decent run right now. It's tough to point to anybody that's really dominating the breakout performance level that we're talking about. I mean, and as I look down the list, right, I mean, the only other person that's kind of ranked in the top 15 in doubles that could get close to earning that same level of respect is his partner, Matt Wilson, right? But then when you look at them specifically and compare them, Colby's having a little bit better of a season. So in this instance, yeah, I'm probably going to lean Colby Shearer for my breakout player.
So I went with Jackson Gore. So last season he was in the 80s. Right now he's ranked, well, we haven't updated it quite yet, but from the last one, ranked 13. We know how difficult it is to get into the top 20. So I think that kind of jump to go from, 80s to 13. And if I think he can stay in the top 20s and 30s. I think that's a fairly large jump. Also, right before the national season, he was so dominant. I mean, you see him in your area. he felt unbeatable. And I don't mean to say that past tense because I think he's still there. I think we'll see that. And so I'm going to go with Jackson Gore for breakout player of the year. Comeback. Who you got?
Comeback, I thought there was a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different people that this could be, and I pointed to, but to me, it's a pretty clear front runner right now, and I don't know how anybody else could say anything other than Jay Rubin. Jay Rubin
100%.
has been the quintessential comeback player of the year. I vividly remember Anthony talking about this and saying, I don't know if he is going to be able to elevate to the point to play and earn the respect of Ryan Trader. And it has been a night and day difference. We're now talking about Jay Rubin being the dominating force and trying to see, if Ryan Trader can get out of this little mini slump that he's in right now. Jay Rubin is one of the top 10 players in the world. You could argue top 5 right now, playing at an incredibly high level. And I would almost lock up this ballot. Like, I just can't imagine anybody else coming through in the second half of the season. I could be wrong, but unless he falls off a cliff, I think Jay Rubin is in a really good spot to take this comeback player.
I totally agree. I picked him as well. I think Jay Rubin is playing so well. In fact, when we go back to, remember, for when we do our picks for our commentators thing, like, I'm picking who I legitimately think can win. This is not a hot take. This is not like, oh, what fun thing can we come up with to see like who could guess who the person would be that nobody would guess. No, this is who I think can actually win. In both events, I have looked at Jay Rubin. I think I picked him in the first or second for his bracket. And then I wanted to pick him in this past one, but I just hated his path. Like, it was such a difficult path. And I remember even talking to Wally about that. And he said, I bet Jay Rubin has no issues with having a difficult path. He probably is just fine with that. But that's the only reason why I didn't pick him to win his bracket. That's how dominant he is right now. I put him as someone I trust to win a bracket and an entire event. And to me, that's the highest praise. So that's an easy ballot right there. All right, rookie of the year. Who you got?
Now, this is the opposite for me of comeback player of the year. I think this one is wide open because I think there's legitimately 4 or 5 people that I could put on the ballot right now, and I have no idea which one is going to have the best second half of the season. Before this weekend, I would have said I really have a gut feeling Zach Aiken is going to run away with this. And so that's why he would kind of be my pick right now. However, with the wrist injury, anytime we're talking about the main body part that is doing the activation of the bag to get it to the hole in that wrist flick, if he's having issues with that, that's worrisome to me, right? That doesn't bode well with me trying to predict how well he's going to do the second half of the year. I think he's still on the ballot, though. It still has a legitimate chance. Riker Wells continues to show up to these tournaments and continues to be a high finisher. He's someone that I continue to have my eye on. Obviously, we can't discount Gabriel Clausen. I mean, Clausen already has won an event so far this season, so we have to take him into consideration. And then, of course, Ty Thompson, right? This was a top 20 guy before this weekend, right? He was just kind of hanging around there, now wins this. Those bonus points are well going to skyrocket him into the top 10, probably the top 5. So he may be the biggest, lead as far as what we're looking at to be a top 10 player. So, or the rookie of the year. So I feel somewhat confident it's going to be one of those guys. I have no idea which one it was going to be. If I have to pick one, I'll probably stick with Zach Aiken. Maybe he doesn't have a great Fort Worth, but I just have a feeling that by the time we get to Utica, he's got the wrist issue figured out and he's back to throwing the way that he can. And he has a good run into the World Championships.
Yeah, I picked Zach Aiken as well, and I agree that all those players deserve to be on the ballot that you mentioned. A lot of juniors, but what makes me choose Zach Aiken is after watching him win an open, after watching him perform so well on the broadcast, even though he didn't get the win, but incredible. I just have the most confidence in him to get the job done. Because ultimately, it's who do I trust to get the job done? And I know Gabriel's done it, and I know Ty's done it. But for some reason that I can't explain logically, I still have more confidence in Zach to do it. So I don't know why that's there. I just have to roll with it. So I picked Zach Aiken. Let's wrap it up with MVP. Who are you putting in that spot?
Yeah, so again, this kind of goes to, someone that's going to be number one, number two, maybe number three when it comes to the rankings by the time we get to Worlds. But really, if you're going to win MVP, people, those voters vote so much on who is at the very top. So you can't be very below 1, 2. You got to be at least top 3. Then in doubles, right? If you're already obviously number one in singles, then you have a little bit to give on the doubles side, but you're going to still expect someone. Well, here's the thing. When it comes to doubles, we're chalk, right? Nobody is going to break into that top 4 unless we have something egregious happen, which means we have to pick between Mark Richards, Tony Smith, Jamie Graham, Jacob Krzyzewski, Gavin Cano, or Sammy Soto. That's who I legitimately think are our candidates right now that could have a chance at MVP. In this current instance, and I'm looking at who is winning and who is performing at a high level, right? I can't give it to Ty Thompson or Gabriel Clausen because they haven't been as consistent enough to be able to earn that. So that really leaves, of the winners, Jamie Graham. So for me, he sits atop my ballot right now. And the question is, do I trust him enough to hold off Tony Smith, Sammy Soto, Jacob Trzyzewski, all of them? I
Yes.
think I do. I think
Yes.
I do. I think he's having a really good season and throwing at a high level. So I'm going to stick with Jamie Graham and say he is going to be our MVP. And that would be his first ever MVP.
Okay, I was wondering about that. I picked Jamie Graham as well, and I think it's relatively easy at this point if I'm choosing today. Obviously, I don't know how the rest of the season's going to go, but if I had to vote this moment, to me, it's an easy MVP at Jamie Graham. I think he's performing incredibly well. He's consistent. He's showing up even better on the broadcast under the big lights, and there's nothing that's going to make me believe in somebody more than performing at the highest level of pressure. So to me, it's easy, Jamie Graham. So yeah, we'll see if that actually holds out for the rest of the season, because I do think any of those guys can grab the spot with an amazing second half. But as of today, that's who I'm going with. All right. Do you have a hot take?
I do have a hot take. So my hot take is that 3 is a trend, and so we are going to see something identical when we go out to Fort Worth. Meaning, I think, for lack of a better way to put it, doubles is going to be chalk. I expect to see Tony Smith, Mark Richards. I expect to see Jamie Graham and Jacob Trzyzewski back in the final 4 of pro doubles, and then some combination of the next 3 or 4 ranked teams rounding out that total ranking system, and that's who we're going to see. But then again, on the double side, on the single side, I expect to see a flyer off the wall, someone that we're not really paying attention to jump in, take that final 4, and really start surprising a lot of people based on how they've been finishing. And if I have to go pick someone in there of who that could be, I'm looking down the list here. I might go with someone like Derek Holland to maybe break into that final 4, be a little bit of a surprise. Still someone that's ranked top 40. We know how good he's been. But that's what I'm going with. We're going to see some more of the same.
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in Derek Holland as well. I think he's playing really well. I've watched some of when he was at your local regionals, what you're calling, and really, really impressed. I'm going with something I was alluding to earlier. I think Jackson Gore has the ability to get to TV. So I'm not going to call my hot take for this specific event because I want to do that next week. But I think Jackson Gore will make it to win a bracket at some point this season for the rest of our signatures to really kind of clinch that spot on the ballot. All right, guys, that's all we got time for. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.